Diffblue is the autonomous AI-powered coding tool from Diffblue. It writes Java unit tests automatically without human interaction and without using any external resource. While running, Diffblue may throw R006 code indicating that something went wrong with those parts of your codebase which initialize class fields. This could refer to fields declared using the static keyword or fields contained within a static block, either in your code or in classes loaded from jar dependencies. In this video, we'll go through several situations when your Java code may result in R006 and explore a few workarounds which ultimately make your code more testable and increase unit test coverage. We'll see examples of NumberFormatException, ArithmeticException, and IllegalArgumentException, but there are many other ways in which static initializers can fail. All examples in this video share this POM.xml file, which calls for the JUnit and Mockito dependencies, such that Diffblue can write assertions and mock method inputs respectively. The Maven Surefire plugin should also be listed because Diffblue uses it to validate tests after writing them. Let's look at a class named Operations. It contains a static block which is supposed to initialize the static integer elements, but as we can see, parsing the string x to an integer will fail. This is not a problem for the Operations class, but for another one called Service, which contains the getAverage method. This method relies on the static integer of the Operations class. Let's see how Diffblue deals with this situation. We can use the command dcover create mat.service to write unit tests only for the service class. Diffblue detected the getAverage method as testable, but it couldn't write a unit test for it, raising it to R006 code. As we can guess, the Operations class couldn't be loaded by the JVM, and indeed the log file created by Diffblue makes it clear that this is the case, throwing the R006 code. To fix problems like this, we need to check the static initializers of those classes reported in the log file. Here, we can change the way in which the element's integers is initialized, as for example, we can then build the project again with mvn installed. And run Diffblue again. With this occasion, Diffblue wrote two unit tests for the getAverage method in the service class, and from looking at the second one, we can understand that indeed the static element's integer, which equals 3, was used. Here we have a class named ArrayHandler, and it contains a perfectly written static list of strings. The service class uses the first item in this list to instantiate a string named language. The arithmetic exception thrown when dividing 3 by 0 may easily go unnoticed, as there is no code which relies on the static integer var. Let's see what happens when running Diffblue for the service class. With the project build, we'll type dcover create text.service. Again, we can see that the log file indicates an R006 code along with the name of the class which cannot be loaded, giving us a hint for what went wrong, namely an arithmetic exception when dividing by 0. We can then turn our attention to the static fields of ArrayHandler and eliminate the faulty arithmetic operation. After building the project again, we can run Diffblue once more. Indeed, we can now see that Diffblue wrote two assertions, and the first one proves that the ArrayHandler class was successfully loaded by the JVM. In this example, we have an enum named ice cream, which includes 3 items. The service class attempts to use a non-existing item from the enum and assigns it to a static ice cream reference. Loading such a class will fail due to the IllegalArgumentException, but when compared to the previous examples, this situation is different since we are going to ask Diffblue to write tests for the impossible to load service class. Let's see it in action. Diffblue cover identified the getOrder method as testable, but it couldn't write any test due to the exception thrown. We can see in the log file that it instructs us to make sure that the static initializer, that is our static ice cream reference, can be loaded. We can correct it by selecting an existing item from the enum. With the project built, we can run once again the cover. Eventually, a unit test is written confirming that the service class can be loaded. This was a brief tutorial on how to fix the R006 reason code thrown by Diffblue cover. For more details, please visit diffblue.com.